feeling of weightlessness. Imagine the sensation of your body releasing every tension it has carried through the day, every thought slowly dissolving like mist at the edge of a quiet morning. Now imagine that you are no longer bound to the earth beneath you. You are rising slowly and gently, passing through the thin blue veil of atmosphere that wraps this planet like a whisper, and the world below you grows smaller and softer and more beautiful with every breath you take. The lights of cities begin to blur into delicate constellations of their own, and the hum of human life fades into a silence so deep and so complete that it feels like the universe itself is holding its breath just for you. You are leaving everything behind now. Not with urgency, not with effort, but with the slow and natural ease of a dream that has already decided where it wants to take you. The stars ahead are waiting. The cosmos is patient, and tonight, for the next several hours, you belong entirely to the infinite. If you enjoyed this journey, please subscribe so you never drift through the universe alone. The first thing you notice as you leave the atmosphere behind is the sun. From down on Earth, it is easy to forget how extraordinary the sun truly is. It is simply there, rising every morning, warming every afternoon, setting every evening in colors that humans have spent thousands of years trying to capture in paint and poetry. But up here, above the protective filter of the atmosphere, the sun reveals itself for what it actually is, a sphere of living fire nearly 1,400,000 kilometers wide, churning and breathing and roaring with an energy so immense that the human mind can barely hold the edges of it without slipping. Solar flares arc out from its surface like slow golden rivers thrown into space, curving and cascading in ribbons of plasma that stretch for hundreds of thousands of kilometers before dissolving back into the void. The surface of the sun is not solid in the way that Earth's surface is solid. It is a rolling ocean of superhot gas constantly bubbling and shifting, with darker regions called sunspots drifting across it like bruises on the face of something ancient. At the very core of the sun, where temperatures reach 15 million degrees Celsius, hydrogen atoms are crushed together with such force that they fuse into helium, and in that fusion they release the light and warmth that has made all life on Earth possible for 4.5 billion years. The sun has been burning since long before the first oceans formed on this planet. It will continue burning for another 5 billion years after tonight. And yet right now, from your place, drifting gently in the quiet dark of space, the sun looks almost peaceful. A great slow fire burning at the center of everything, holding all its planets in a gentle, gravitational embrace, patient and warm and impossibly old. You drift further now, carried by nothing more than the softest imaginable current of curiosity, and the sun grows slowly smaller behind you. The planets begin to appear, each one hanging in the dark with a quality of stillness that feels almost sacred. Mercury passes first, small and cratered and silvery, a world of extreme silences where a single day lasts longer than its entire year. Then Venus, wrapped in thick clouds of sulfuric acid that glow faintly golden in the sunlight, a world so hot that lead would melt on its surface and yet so beautiful from a distance that ancient astronomers named it after the goddess of love. The Earth itself is visible now from here, a blue and white jewel suspended in absolute blackness, and something about seeing it from this distance fills you with a feeling that astronauts have described but never quite found adequate words for. It is small. It is fragile. It is the most vivid color in an otherwise colorless void, and every person you have ever known or loved or passed on a street without noticing is on that small, pale sphere, going about their lives, breathing the same thin air, sleeping under the same moon. You feel a tenderness for it that surprises you with its gentleness. Then you let it go and you drift on. Mars appears as a soft red ember in the darkness, and you find yourself drawn toward it slowly, the way sleep draws you toward its deepest chambers without ever quite announcing itself. The surface of Mars is a landscape of breathtaking desolation. Vast rust-colored plains stretch in every direction beneath a sky the color of a dusty rose at dusk. Enormous extinct volcanoes rise from the surface, including Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the entire solar system, so wide that if you stood at its base you would not be able to see its peak because the curvature of the planet itself would hide it from view. Deep canyon systems scar the equatorial regions, ancient and silent, carved by forces that are no longer active. There is no wind tonight on Mars. There is no sound at all. There are small robotic explorers that have been sitting on that surface for years, moving slowly, taking photographs, sending data back to a planet they were built on, quiet and diligent and utterly alone. You watch them for a moment from above, these small mechanical wanderers on a vast, empty world, and then you breathe out slowly and let the current carry you further into the dark. The asteroid belt comes next, and it is nothing like the dramatic field of tumbling rocks that you may have imagined. It is vast and it is sparse, the remnants of material that never quite gathered itself into a planet, spread across a region of space so wide that if you traveled through it, you would likely never come close enough to any single asteroid to see it clearly. Some of these rocky bodies are ancient beyond measure, unchanged since the very earliest days of the solar system, carrying within them a chemical memory of the time before planets existed. Others are metallic, dense with iron and nickel, slow tumbling and dark. A few are large enough to be round, shaped by their own gravity into rough spheres. They drift in their slow orbital paths around the sun, patient and unhurried, going around and around in the dark as they have done for billions of years. There is something deeply calming about that kind of patience. Something in you recognizes it and responds to it. You breathe more slowly. Your thoughts begin to thin. Jupiter is impossible to prepare for. Even knowing its dimensions intellectually, even understanding that it is larger than all the other planets in the solar system combined, nothing fully prepares you for the moment it fills your field of vision. It is enormous in a way that quiets the mind completely. Its surface is a shifting canvas of amber and cream and burnt orange, great bands of cloud running in parallel stripes around its circumference, swirling and folding into each other with the slow grace of something that has been in motion for millions of years. The Great Red Spot is visible near its southern hemisphere, a storm system that has been raging continuously for at least 350 years, wider than the entire planet Earth, rotating counterclockwise with a kind of stubborn ancient permanence that makes human history feel very brief and very quiet by comparison. Around Jupiter, a family of moons orbits in their patient paths. Io glows faintly sulphurous yellow, its surface covered in active volcanoes that throw plumes of material hundreds of kilometers above the surface. Europa is smooth and pale, its icy crust crisscrossed with faint brown lines, and beneath that ice, scientists believe, a liquid ocean exists that may be twice the volume of all of Earth's oceans combined. Ganymede is the largest moon in the solar system, larger even than the planet Mercury, and Callisto, furthest out, is pocked and ancient, and completely, beautifully still. You drift past all of them slowly, and Jupiter's gravity tugs at you gently as you pass, like a warm hand on your shoulder. Saturn comes into view the way a dream reveals its most beautiful image, just before you fall completely under. The rings appear first as a thin, bright line, And then as your angle shifts, they open up into their full, extraordinary spread, a system of ice and rock and dust that extends nearly 300,000 kilometers from the planet's center, but is in places only 10 meters thick, so flat and so wide that the mind simply refuses to hold the full geometry of it. The rings catch the distant sunlight and scatter it in a shimmer that makes the whole structure look almost transparent, almost like something that could not possibly be real, something that belongs in the imagination of a painter rather than in the actual physical universe. Saturn itself is pale gold, its atmosphere banded in subtle creams and tans, its north pole marked by a hexagonal storm system that has puzzled scientists since it was first observed decades ago. There is a quietness to Saturn that is different from Jupiter's quietness. Jupiter impresses with its scale, Saturn enchants. It is the most visually serene object in the solar system, and drifting near it, watching its rings catch the light of a sun that is now nearly 1.5 billion kilometers away, you feel something in your chest ease that you had not even realized was tight. Further out now, and the sun behind you is just another star among many, slightly brighter than the others, but no longer the overwhelming presence it once was. Uranus drifts in the dark, tilted on its side in a way that makes it seem somehow vulnerable, its axis so dramatically off, kilter that it essentially rolls around the sun rather than spinning upright like the other planets. Its color is a soft, pale cyan, almost mint, the result of methane in its atmosphere absorbing red light and reflecting blue and green back into the void. It is cold here in a way that goes beyond temperature. It is the cold of extreme distance, the cold of a place where sunlight takes more than 2.5 hours to arrive, and arrives already so faint that midday on Uranus would look darker than a cloudy evening on Earth. And yet there is beauty here too. Rings circle Uranus, narrower and darker than Saturn's, and a collection of moons with names drawn from Shakespeare and Alexander Pope accompany it on its long, lonely orbit. You pass through this pale blue realm and keep going, and the dark deepens around you and your breathing deepens with it. Neptune is the last of the planets, and it is perhaps the most haunting. Its color is a deep and vivid blue, richer than Uranus, the blue of something that has been alone for a very long time and has found its own kind of peace in that solitude. Storms move across its surface faster than on any other planet in the solar system, with winds that reach speeds of 2,000 kilometers per hour in an atmosphere where the sun provides almost no energy at all. The largest of Neptune's moons, Triton, orbits in the opposite direction to Neptune's rotation, suggesting that it was not born here but was captured long ago from the outer solar system, drawn in by Neptune's gravity and locked into a slow retrograde spiral that will eventually bring it close enough to be torn apart by tidal forces. Triton's surface is covered in nitrogen ice, and geysers of dark material shoot kilometers up from it into the thin space above, powered by the faint solar energy that manages to reach even here. You watch Triton for a long time. There is something about it that feels like a story told very quietly by someone who is almost asleep. Beyond Neptune, the solar system does not end so much as it gradually releases its hold. The region known as the Kuiper Belt extends outward for billions of kilometers, populated by icy bodies and dwarf planets including Pluto, small and cold and surprisingly complex, with mountains of frozen water ice and plains of nitrogen that slowly flow like glaciers over geological timescales. Beyond the Kuiper Belt is the vast shell called the Oort cloud, a theoretical region extending almost halfway to the nearest star, populated by trillions of icy bodies that orbit so slowly and so far from the sun that a single orbit might take millions of years. These objects spend most of their existence in a darkness so complete that the sun from out there would be indistinguishable from any other star. They exist at the very edge of the solar system's gravitational reach, moving so slowly they seem almost stationary. You drift among them for a while, and the silence here is the deepest you have encountered. It is a silence that predates human language and will outlast every civilization that ever rose and fell on that small blue world far behind you. You breathe into it and it breathes back, and the distinction between you and the space around you becomes softer and less certain. The stars are all around you now, and each one is a sun. Every point of light you can see in any direction is a star, many of them larger and brighter and more ancient than the one that warms your home planet. Some of them burn blue-white and fierce, consuming their fuel so rapidly that they will live for only a few million years before exploding in supernovae bright enough to briefly outshine entire galaxies. Others are red dwarfs, small and cool and dim, burning so slowly and so efficiently that they will continue shining for trillions of years, long after every blue star has already died. There are binary systems where two stars orbit each other in slow gravitational dances, and there are systems with 5 or 6 stars all bound together in complex choreographies that would make sunrise and sunset on any orbiting planet an experience of extraordinary complexity and beauty. Between the stars, the space is not empty. It is threaded with gas and dust, with magnetic fields and radiation, with the faint echoes of ancient events. In some regions, clouds of this interstellar material gather and thicken over millions of years until gravity begins to pull them inward, and new stars are born in the compressed and heated cores of those collapsing clouds. The universe is always making new suns, even as old ones die. The cycle has no beginning you can find, and no end you can see. The nebulae are where this process becomes visible, and they are perhaps the most genuinely beautiful objects in the observable universe. A nebula is a cloud of gas and dust illuminated either by stars embedded within it or by stars nearby, and the colors they display are the colors of ionized elements. Hydrogen glowing red and pink, oxygen glowing blue and green, sulfur contributing its own subtle contributions to the spectrum. The Orion Nebula is visible from Earth with the naked eye, a faint smudge in the sword of Orion, but up close it is a vast and luminous cathedral of gas, studded with young stars in the process of being born. Their radiation and stellar winds carving and sculpting the surrounding material into shapes that photographers spend lifetimes trying to capture adequately. The Pillars of Creation, a region within the Eagle Nebula, rises in columns of cold gas and dust so massive that the light takes years to travel from their base to their tip, and within them new stars are being assembled particle by particle from the raw material of the interstellar medium. The Crab Nebula is the remnant of a supernova that was observed from Earth in the year 1054, a still expanding shell of gas and debris centered on a pulsar, a rapidly rotating neutron star that pulses with radiation 30 times every second with mechanical regularity. Every nebula has its own character, its own palette, its own particular quality of light and shadow. Drifting through them, you feel like you are moving through the slow thoughts of something dreaming on a timescale you cannot fully comprehend. Galaxies appear on the horizon of your perception the way mountains appear to a traveler approaching from a great distance. First as faint hints, then as presences, then as something so large they reframe your sense of scale completely. Our own Milky Way galaxy contains somewhere between 100 billion and 400 billion stars, arranged in a flattened disk with a central bulge and spiral arms that trail outward like the arms of a slowly turning pinwheel. From within it, as we always are, we cannot see its full shape. We can only observe the dense river of stars that makes up its disk as a band of light across the night sky. But from far enough away, it is a spiral galaxy, Tilted at an angle, its core glowing golden with the packed light of ancient stars, its arms marked by the blue glow of younger star-forming regions and the red and pink of active nebulae. Beyond the Milky Way, galaxies stretch in every direction to the edges of the observable universe. There are estimated to be roughly 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe alone, each one containing billions or hundreds of billions of stars, each of those stars potentially hosting its own family of worlds. The sheer arithmetic of it is so large that it stops being a number and becomes something more like a feeling of space so vast and so full that the only appropriate response is a kind of reverent stillness. The light around you is ancient. The light from the most distant galaxies you can perceive has been traveling for billions of years, leaving its source long before the Earth existed, passing through the expanding universe and reaching your perception now in this moment, carrying information about a time so remote that the stars that produced it have long since burned out and died. Looking into the deep universe is looking into the past, and the further you look, the deeper into time you go, until at the very edge of what is visible, you can see the faint glow of the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang itself, a whisper of radiation left over from the moment nearly 14 billion years ago, when everything that exists exploded into being from a point of infinite density and temperature. That light has been traveling since the universe was less than 400,000 years old. It reaches you now, barely perceptible, the oldest thing that can be seen. And it is warm. Not warm in temperature. It is extremely cold, but warm in the way that something very old and very patient feels warm. The universe began in an event of unimaginable violence and heat, and what remains of that moment is this faint, even, gentle glow, spread evenly in every direction, surrounding everything, as constant and as quiet as a heartbeat. Your drift is slower now. The thoughts that were with you when this journey began have dissolved entirely, replaced by something that is not quite thought and not quite feeling, but something quieter than either. The stars around you pulse with their slow, ancient rhythms, each one a nuclear furnace containing more energy than the human mind can conceptualize, and yet from here they are simply soft points of light, serene and still, going about their long, slow business of burning and shining without urgency or concern. You are very small here, but small does not mean insignificant. Every atom in your body was forged inside a star that lived and died long before the solar system formed. The carbon in your cells, the oxygen in your blood, the calcium in your bones, all of it was produced in stellar cores and scattered into space by supernova explosions, and then gathered again by gravity over millions of years into the cloud of material that eventually became the sun and its planets and everything that lives on them. You are not separate from the cosmos looking outward. You are the cosmos looking at itself. And right now the cosmos is very, very sleepy. Let the stars hold you. Let the slow turning of galaxies keep their ancient time around you. Let the silence of interstellar space, which is the oldest silence there is, settle into you the way darkness settles into a room when the last light is turned off. There is nowhere you need to be. There is nothing you need to do. The universe is approximately 13.8 billion years old, and it will continue for a duration so vast that no number assigned to it carries any intuitive meaning. And in all of that time and all of that space, this particular moment, you here, breathing, resting, is the only moment there is. Not because the others do not exist, but because this is the one you are in. And it is enough. It is more than enough. The stars are steady. The dark is soft. And somewhere in the deep and patient silence between the galaxies, something that has always been waiting for you opens, slowly and completely, and you go in.